In the previous patch of Dragon Ball FighterZ, Videl's auto combo was adjusted to make a potential mix-up tool. The second hit of it would now miss on crouching opponents. Emphasis here on crouching. If you don't hold any additional inputs while you're pressing the auto combo, the second hit of her auto combo will hit against crouching opponents. If you want to go for the tick throw, you now hold forward, causing the second hit to change its properties. Do know, however, that by doing this, it still doesn't work against standing opponents. But again, as I pointed out previously, you won't really see people doing this too often, as if you're standing against Videl, you're inviting a 2M low punish. The patch notes state that the properties of the second hit of her light auto combo change when you hold forward. The only thing that I've been able to notice is the difference in startup, as the advantage on block as well as on hit are fundamentally the same. With the forward input, it comes out at frame 15. Without the input, it comes out at frame 10. This does naturally beat mashing, actually, as it's able to just naturally frame trap a 6-frame normal on its own. So, I suppose it's nice for that functionality as well. However, it does not frame trap against 4-frame reversals, which are able to work here. Piccolo gets armor at frame 4 on this reversal option of his. Videl is now able to Gatling her 5 heavy into her 6 heavy, just as combination. This opens up potential new combo routing for her, as well as pressure sequences. In terms of basic pressure ideas, you have to keep in mind that just as combination has gaps between it that can be reflected. This does naturally beat mashing, however, as it frame traps 6-frame normals. You could try to take advantage of this by going for her throws. This isn't necessarily new tech that I'm explaining here either. It's just pointing out the fact that you could do this after you do a 5 heavy new string, whereas going into this whole option wasn't available to you before. It's not too big of a difference though, as I feel like the main implication of this is going to be in her combo routing, especially towards the corner. She's able to link the second hit of Justice combination after a 5H smash launcher in mid-screen. However, the third hit falls out, so I don't think this is going to lead her to be replacing any of her existing combo routes off of 5H in mid-screen. In the corner, it's pretty natural to follow up. Whether or not this is going to be replacing any of Videl's existing bread and butter sequences is something I think is going to have to be determined in a little bit of time. I'm mainly pointing out that this is a possibility for Videl players to experiment with. Hand in hand with her 5 heavy change, Videl can now also Gatling her 6 heavy into 5 heavy or any of her special key attacks. This opens up a lot of dimensionality for the move in terms of her pressure sequencing, but also her potential conversions off of this if she uses it in neutral. Namely, Videl can actually threaten some pretty decent solo conversions against someone who wants to try and Ki Blast zone her by using 6 Heavy's Ki Blast immunity to skip neutral. I'd argue that this is a fairly decent buff for Videl against matchups where she's able to use this against their Ki Blast zoning. This also means that in situations where 6 heavy is blocked, she's able to cancel to keep herself a little safer against a reflect punish situation. However, none of the options that I've been able to find are really great at beating reflect itself naturally. As you can see here, the opponent can reflect here, and Videl's -2. And the opponent recovers well in time before 2S comes out to actually work as a reflect crush. As a more optimized demonstration of the potential for Videl's combo routing, now that she can Gatling 6 heavy into 5 heavy, here's Mega Morita with some new corner loops for y'all. I'll be honest, I don't know if I've ever seen a Videl break 6k damage without a super before, but maybe I'm just not seeing the optimal Videls. 2S had its recovery reduced. In the previous patch, Videl could move after 29 frames of animation. In the current patch, it's only 22 frames of recovery. This gives a lot of potential implications for Videl's combo routing, pressure sequences, as well as her neutral, which I think this move is going to find its most utility in. However, I wouldn't be surprised if with the new 7-frame recovery, it's possible for her to summon this during some sort of extended hit stun, and then be able to link into it, adding onto new combo routings. I expect, though, that this is largely going to be something that comes from assists more than anything. Just from an eye test alone, this actually feels like a potential option that she can put into block strings. So perhaps this can be used just to add to the mental stack against the opponent and something to make them a little antsy on defense. Compare that sequence to before. Substantially slower. Like the rest of the cast, Videl can now Gatling from her jump special into jump heavy attacks. However, in my testing here, it seems like most of its application is going to be in the corner. Mid-screen, neither of the heavies connect. Bit of a shame here, but perhaps there's going to be some other routing that is going to open up with this change in the mid-screen as well. Videl's Jump 2S also has some changes to its properties when the opponent is in hit stun. Before, it was pretty difficult to make it work in any sort of combo. As you can see here, even with a Jump 2H launcher, it wasn't possible to link into Jump 2S. Now, the Great Saiyaman appears faster and his location has been adjusted so that if you launch the opponent with a Jump 2 Heavy, you can combo into Jump 2S and then pick up a combo on the ground. I think this opens up a lot of possibilities for Videl's combo routing here that can result in her having higher damage output than she did in the previous patch. In my testing, I haven't been able to find any new links with this change to Jump 2S off of her level 1 super. In the corner, you can still link into it, but no doubt any follow-ups that you had before are going to be changed with the new timing of the Jump 2S. It feels pretty workable, though. All versions of Frankensteiner have had some buffs to them. Let's go through each version individually, starting with the light version. Before, this was 26 frames startup and led to a sliding knockdown. In the previous patch, this meant that this tool was slightly worse than most of the average reactable command throws, as well as didn't really have much potential for reward. You basically had a super to launch the opponent and try to continue a combo from there. Now the move is 2 frames faster, meaning that it's probably going to be easier to link it into some combo routing where she likes to use this as an ender, as well as meaning that it's on par with other command throws in terms of its startup as a mix-up tool. You'll also notice that there's a ground bounce. However, conversions off of this appear to be fairly limited to me. You would think that fast lariat style assists would combo naturally from this. However, in my testing, they don't. That also includes C assists. This is a pretty tight window to get, actually, and it seems like the only confirms available to Videl when she hits this is when she's in Spark and can special cancel. Sort of an odd change, and one that I was hoping would have a little more hits done so that she'd be able to threaten this move a little more often when she had an assist and get meaningful damage that didn't rely on her either spending Spark or using her level 1 super to launch the opponent. The medium version also had its startup increased. Before, it was 29 frame startup, which meant that it was a little difficult for Videl to combo into it solo. There's also a few other changes happening here. If you hit this in the corner with the hit stun that was available to you, you weren't able to combo. Lastly, if you did fit this into a combo, even after you use your smash launcher, it was just a slide knockdown. The medium version has been buffed pretty dramatically. The startup has been reduced by 3 frames, so now it connects at frame 26. Additionally, the hit stop when the Great Saiyaman strikes them has been increased, so now it's actually possible for Videl to solo convert off of this. The last change as well is that because of the startup change, she's now able to combo this from a smash launching 5 heavy attack, and there's a ground bounce afterwards too. Again, playing it into her advantage to be able to special cancel during Spark. Much like the light version, the ground bounce is pretty unworkable with assists otherwise. The last change has some potential implications for the character, as you are now able to hold down the attack button and she'll cancel the animation. She recovers in the air as well. So you can IAD for an overhead, or land and go low for a 2M. In my experience, you're not really able to utilize any sort of float behavior to get her close enough to reach with a 2L. Even in the corner. As a very simple proof of concept, it's potentially possible for Videl to put the opponent into a true high-low 50-50 with a right assist. However, jailing into this is probably going to prove to be difficult, as we're talking about locking down the opponent before she goes into the startup of this move, and then having enough blocks done as well for her to come down and high-low without the opponent being able to interact. So likely, you're going to be looking at some sort of C assist that has 55 frames of blocks done, or you're going to need Kid Buu A assist to truly make this work. Otherwise, there's always going to be some sort of a gap that the opponent could potentially wiggle and escape from. Just a proof of concept idea. The heavy version of Frankensteiner also now causes a ground bounce when there is no camera effect. Like the others, it's impossible for you to get an extension with an assist, but namely this is here so that you can spark and cancel into special moves and convert off of it as well. Before, as you'd expect, it was just a slide knockdown. One element that is worth pointing out, though, is that with the ground bounce, there is a significant improvement in the amount of frame advantage that Videl has after a knockdown like this. In the old patch with the slide knockdown, you had about 42 frames of advantage. Compare that to now. 57 frames, so an increase of about 15 frames of advantage. There could be some potential new setups that Videl can go for, or more reliable safe jumps or Okazemi tech chases that she's able to have access to with this change. However, we'll see how often this comes up, as I feel like most Videls are going to be using this as a combo starter and not as a combo finisher. Though, I suppose if the situation arises, this is some good information to know. The other change to Heavy Frankensteiner is that the recovery when it's whiffed has been reduced. This is great for Videl, who would often like to use this move to try and escape the corner while also threatening a command throw against anyone in her way. That's what the new recovery looks like. This was the old recovery. It's a dramatic difference, actually. There are situations where if someone was able to read this dive kick, they would be able to probably run up and punish Videl or preempt it with a beam of sorts. Now Videl's a lot safer going for this move, and it's harder for the opponent to find a punish when she chooses to use this to escape the corner. Videl's DP, Rising Eagle, now has more hit stop on hit. Before, you had about 3 frames of advantage here. Compare that to now. As you can see, there's about 5 frames, so 2 more frames of hit stop. I don't know really why this is here, except for probably making it easier for Videl to cancel out of this move and spark to continue combos if she chooses to use it there. It is a DP that, upon success, she is able to call an assist afterwards as well. Do note that you still can't call an assist when it is blocked, so I suppose it just means that it's easier for Videl to convert off of this with an assist on hit and in spark when she can special cancel. Arguably one of the most important changes to Videl, and something that's going to restructure the way that players use her now, is that she can now combo into the Defender of Love and Justice Great Saiyaman, her counter super. You can convert into this as well whenever the opponent is in hit stun. This is pretty big for Videl, and let me try to outline why. There's a lot of utility to this super overall in the kit after the many buffs it's received over the years. For starters, it completely drains 1 bar of the opponent's ki gauge. So, early on in the round, you could potentially take away the opponent's ability to use guard cancel or reversal out, depending on how much meter that they actually have, and make it so that they're less likely to get you with a crippling punish because they don't have the meter to actually expend more in order to kill you. Additionally, this means that Videl is able to consistently buff up her Great Saiyaman calls to do more damage, as well as the damage of the super itself. For example, her 5S does 1,000 damage before the super. And you'll see that beforehand, when she first uses this super, it deals a measly 318 damage. However, all of her Saiyaman calls are buffed afterwards. So now 5S here does 1,000, but the super itself is also buffed incredibly, doing 1,000 base damage. This seems to be added on additionally instead of just a flat scaling thing, because before in the initial combo it was 318 damage. Now it does 1,318 damage after the buff itself. If I have the calculations wrong, do let me know in the chat below, but odds are we're going to be seeing a lot more of this super now. I think it's pretty easy to say that this is the best version of Videl that the game has ever seen. She appreciates all the buffs to her new Gatling routes that allowed her to get higher damage sequences, not only in terms of her corner combo positioning, but also from her anti-neutral tools where she's able to skip against Ki Blast and then go into 5H launching combos. Additionally, there's new routes that open up for her as well with the changes to her jump to S. And while I would have liked to seen a little more utility from the Frankensteiner buffs and their ground bounces, they seem to have been relegated to only sparking extension tools for her to make her a potential anchor threat or maximize her damage when she is in sparking. Still, off the command throws themselves, she is able to launch with her level 1 super and continue on with combos, so it's not too big of a change. It would have just made it so that she was less meter reliant to convert off of those tools. The change to medium Frankensteiner is super interesting to explore, as it opens up a lot of guessing games with the opponent now, as when she does it, the opponent is not just reacting to her going up in the air and throwing them, but also has to deal with the fact that she could be feigning them out and landing to try and punish any attempt to anti her in the first place. The changes to Defender of Love and Justice, the Great Saiyaman, also mean that the character has a lot more utility within her kit as well, by draining the opponent's meter, as well as guaranteeing the fact that she can always buff up her own Saiyaman calls to make her a higher damage character, which is helpful because she tends to be on the lower side of damage when it comes to many of her starters in the game, so she appreciates having control over buffing up her own kit. Lucar already got top 8 with the character at Thunderstruck, and we'll see if he continues to grind out the character more. But if you want to see some other Videl players in action, I do have to shout out What Daniel Do and his Videl, as well as the tournaments that he hosts, the Dirty Den on Monday nights. So be sure to check him out.